Hello, welcome back. So far, we have completed our REST API and also we have initialized it into our project. So now let's build a simple front end, which I've already prepared. So I hope you have downloaded the zip file from the previous lecture. And in this lecture, we will go through extracting the front end code and also running at the front end code in our local machine. So let's get started. So as I've told you in the previous lecture, I've created a front-end zip file, so which I have placed inside my tutorial folder. You can see I have it here. So let me move this to our e-commerce folder. So it's pretty simple. We can say mv, we can say frontend.zip, and we can place it inside our personal and then e-commerce folder. Okay. So now let me go back to my personal folder. Yeah. So we should see front-end zip file here. Okay. And let's extract this file. So you can say unzip frontend.zip. So yeah, if you can see, we should have the front-end folder by now. And let's remove the zip file. You can say rm.zip. Yeah. So now we have removed our front-end.zip file. Let's go to our Visual Studio Code, and you can see we have this front-end code, which is basically a React application into our e-commerce site, right? So if you go and check, so this is based on React. So in order to run this, I need a node. Like we need Python for running the Python file. So we need Node to run the JavaScript file. So in order to install Node, we can use nvm, which is basically a Node version manager. So you can follow by using curl to this endpoint or either wget. I have added all this in the previous lecture, and you can make sure you have installed the nvm and also the Node version. So to make sure you have installed Node correctly, so you can say node-v. So you can see I have Node version 16 installed pretty simply. So now let me go to the front-end folder. So here I can say npm install. So when I say npm install, it will install all the Node packages from this front-end project. So you can see we have here pretty number of dependencies. When we say npm install, it will go and install all these dependencies. So since this is not the scope of our project, so I will not go much deep into this. The idea is just to help you understand how exactly we can implement our REST API in the front-end side. So we have created REST API, but how will a front-end developer implement those endpoints? So the idea is just to help you with that. Cool, right? So let's wait until these dependencies are installed. You can also go to the README here. So it's pretty simple here. You can use npm start to start the front-end server, and then we can use npm run build and so on. Okay. And when we say npm install, you can see we have this Node modules folder here. So these are all the Node packages which are required for this application to start. Unlike we have lib inside this one. So these are the dependencies for our Python project. So the same way, Node modules is a dependency for our Node project. Okay. So yeah, so we can see we have successfully installed our Node packages. So now I can say npm start. So let's go to localhost 3000. So yes, so you can see we have the front end part running in our application. Cool, right? So let's go to the code base, what exactly we are doing. So you can see in this application, we have certain endpoints. We have a login page, we have a register page, and also we have home page, and also we have /shop page, and also we have /shop ID. And as you can see, we have /shop is a private route, and /shop ID is also a private route. So we'll be able to access this only if the user is login, right? And if you go to our login page, you can see that we are getting the username and the password from the user, and then we are logging in. So you can see we have this auth.signin, and if you go to our auth.signin, so go to this hooks and go to this auth, and when we say sign in, we say API provider.signin, and we pass the username and the password. And let's go to our sign in, and here we pass username and password to our /login endpoint. And if you see our Axios instance, basically this is taking our REST API URL. So if you want to check what exactly the URL is, you can go back to our .env, and you can see for now our REST API URL is localhost 5000. So having a local host or having the previous endpoint, unlike, so these two are pretty same. So if I say localhost 5000, or if I say http 127.0.0.1, so this resembles to the localhost only. Cool, right? So let's use localhost only. So we have this sign in endpoint, which will basically sign the user with the username and password. Once we successfully log in, then we are assigning this access token and the refresh token in the local storage. So there can be different approaches for this. And also I'm updating the token. So I'm setting the token which we get into the XCS instance so that I don't have to set the token every time for each request. Okay. And also when we register, we take the username and the password. And when we sign out, we make sure that we have the access token. And once we successfully signed out, we make sure that we have removed the access token and refresh token. And also we have removed the access token from the header as well. Okay. So we have different pages. So let's go to our login page. And when we successfully sign in and we are navigating either to the home page or navigating to the page where the user came from, right? So I don't think we really need to explain this. So the idea was just to help you with the front end part. Okay, so let's open our inspect. So I want to track my networks and go to this network tab. And here, if I go to the shops, basically, if you remember, in order to access these shops, I need to log in, right? So let's click on this shop. Okay, so I have this username and password field. So if you go back to our postman, so let's try to resemble the same exact thing. So we have this username as learn with Pratap, and the password should be change me. Okay, so if we log in, we get an exception, course error. So what is that? So what is a course error? A course error is a cross origin resource sharing error. So that means I have this frontend running in the localhost port 3000, but if you remember, we have our backend running in this port 5000, right? So it means that the origin are different. So we are trying to request a REST API which is not shared in the same origin. Okay. So to handle that, we need to make a small change in our REST API. So let's go to our app.py. Okay. So here, in order to handle this, we need to go and download our Flask course. So let's go to Flask course, and installing it is pretty simple. We can use Flask course and let's add it to our requirement.txt file. Okay. And in order to use our course, we can simply import our course. Let's go to app.py and let me import just below this and let me add course. Okay, but till now I haven't set any cross origin, right? So we can set cross origin multiple ways, so which is not mentioned in this sample application. But when we instantiate this course, we can add our origins here. So we can say origins equal to, and this should be a list. So here I can pass my front-end code, which is basically, if you remember, localhost. So let me remove that /login. We don't need that. So now this means that any request which comes from this endpoint will be served by the backend. Okay. Okay. So we have made changes on this. So now it's time to build our backend again. Okay. So building Docker image is pretty simple. We can say Docker build -t flask e-commerce dot, and that's build. So why we're building? Because we added one new dependency, which is basically Flask course, to avoid the cross origin. Okay, so we have made the Docker image. So let's run the Docker image, right? So, but before that, let's make sure we stop the Docker container. Let's go to container and let's remove this because we don't really need this. And let's run the Docker image. So we can say Docker run -d-p and mounting the folder and running the Flask e-commerce. So we are very expert in this by now, right? So let's run this. So we have our container running. So let's confirm if our container is running. So let's say, okay, so we can confirm that we have our container running, we have our backend running, right? So now let's go back to our front end part and let's test the application. So since we have added our cross origin, it should work now, right? So we still get an exception, of course. So let's go back to our application and let's see what we have missed. I'm not sure here, like I think we need to add this supports credential true. So since I'm adding this cross origin, so I want to make sure this basically will support a credential. That means if this matches, only it will work. So let's save. Let's go back to our application and let's log in. Nice. So we're able to log in. And let me close this window and let's try to create a new shop, right? So we'll say the name of the shop is Evo Store. Let's create a shop. Okay, so I've created a Evo Store. So all products of Evo Store. So we don't have any product. So let's create a new product. So we'll say iPhone, and the price is basically 130 USD. Okay, and let me create a product. Okay, so now we have this iPhone product, or we can update the name. We can say iPhone 13 because we have lots of iPhone, right? We can save. Okay, let's create another product. Let's say iPhone 14, and let's say the price is a bit costlier than the previous one, and we can say $150. Okay, $150, and let's create a product. Okay, so now we have multiple products in this Evo Store. Let me go back. Let me go to this Evo Store. Let me refresh. Okay, so as long as my session is available, I'm not logged out, right? And let's try to run this from our Postman as well. If you can see our Evo Store, so we can say get shops, and let's send. We have Baskin Robbins, we have Pretty Grocery, and also we have our Evo Store. And if you see, Baskin Robbins has multiple products, brown rice and Lysol, and our Kriti Grocery doesn't have any product, and our Evo Store has two products, which is basically iPhone 13 and iPhone 14, right? And let's test our logout. Okay, so let me try to access shops. So it asks me to log in if I want to access the shop, right? So let's say we don't have the account. I want to register, and let's say learn with Pratap test, and the password will be same. Change me, let me register, and now I've successfully registered, and it asks me to log in. So let me log in with that user. Learn with Pratap test, change me, login. So we are able to log in now. If I go to shops, I'm able to access my shops. So if you remember, I have multiple products in this Baskin Robbins, right? So what will happen if I delete this? So if I delete this shop, basically all the products inside this shop should be also deleted, right? So let me delete it. Okay, so the shop is now deleted. And let me go back to the Postman and let me get products, and I'll say send. Amazing. So I don't have any products from the Baskin Robbins. Or if I get shops, I should not see Baskin Robbins. Cool, right? So this way we have implemented our front end. So if you want to learn more about React, you can follow the React documentation. And also I'm planning a course on React, basically on a Monstack, Mongo, Express, Node, and React. So this will be coming up 2 months from now. By the time you enroll in this course, the course should be available. I will add the same in the description section or in the comment section, so you can follow along there. But for now, please don't bother about this front end. Just use it as a example to how to implement your backend. Okay. So in the next section, we will work on deploying our front end and our backend to a server in the cloud. So see you there.